Lady Gaga is back and better than ever with the release of Disease, Abracadabra and her new album Mayhem, which comes out on Friday. So I figured that today I'd go ahead and create a track in a similar style to Abracadabra and give you an in-depth look into how you can create something similar. If you are new here, hello, my name is Ash. I've been a music producer now full-time for 4 years, which is crazy. So welcome to the channel. If you want to subscribe, feel free, be my guest, I would love it. But let's get into the production. I think it's really important with this to note where we're pulling from. There's definitely some trance influence, there's definitely some 2010s electro house influence. It's all kind of tied together with this really fun pop top line. Definitely reminiscent of art pop and Born This Way. So let's take a look at what we'll be creating. So firstly, the intro is kind of like this teaser towards that like really big dance break, and all the drums in the entire track are just centered around this 4 on the floor pattern. It's really important here to think about sounds that are super clubby. That kick is very, very ravey. The claps are really quite crunchy and tight. They're not your typical like 808 or 909 clap. They're a little bit more kind of like saturated, a little bit more intense. And of course, throughout that break there, we do start building up with some other percussion. It builds the tension. Everything about dance music is about peaks and troughs and playing with tension and release. Moving on to the bass synths here. Now, these are kind of reminiscent of the art pop era. Some of that like 2010s complextro. Like, it's not super far away from like some of that early Skrillex, like Porter Robinson type sounds. Maybe a little bit like Charlie XCX Von Dutch vibes. So you can hear it's extremely gritty, extremely distorted. So I'm going to take you through these synths now. This is acting as one kind of cohesive sound, but there is 4 layers here. We've got this first kind of grit bass, which as you can hear is almost phasey. It sounds really, really bizarre. It's just detuned saw waves. On oscillator A, we've got 7 voices of unison. On oscillator B, we've got 8 voices of unison. Moving to the effects panels, it's distorted. I've got the hyper on there just to kind of expand it and make it bigger. A little bit of chorus, and the EQ is basically doing nothing on that. We then have a high octave layer, which is even harder. It's even more abrasive and like piercing. Similar concept, it's all based around saw waves, but in this case, we've got them pitched up and there's no detune on it. Moving into the effects panel here, we've got the multiband compressor on there, we've got distortion, we've got the hyper expanding it and making it really big, and then just an EQ filtering out the low end. This is, whilst yes, it's acting as part of the bass, there's other layers to this that are filling in that bottom end, so I just don't need it because this is kind of serving that purpose of being gritty and over the top. This is a really fun thing though. This is exactly the same patch as the first bass that I showed you, but I ran it through a guitar amp sim. You can hear there that it's much more mid-focused and a little bit more abrasive, but it's not piercing like that high layer is. And then on the bottom there, we have a really simple sub as well. A little bit of saturation just so that it cuts through a little bit more, but as one unit, it sounds like this. Because Abracadabra is in this kind of like dark electro pop style, I have a lot of atmosphere stuff going on here as well throughout the whole track. You can hear there that it's very like distorted and really creepy sounding. It feels a little bit dissonant. It's kind of clashing a little bit, but it fills out that space so well and makes the whole track kind of feel kind of spooky, a little bit weird. The whole point of that intro is kind of setting the tone for the track. Let's move into the verse here because this is where the vocal, if there was a vocal in this project, would kind of occupy some space. Going into this, knowing that I'm producing a pop track with a bunch of dance elements, I knew here that I was going to drop some things out, right? I'm dropping out a couple of claps. That bass does not exist here. It's very airy, very light, ready for a vocal to kind of breathe in this space. Once again, dance music is always about kind of peaks and troughs and tension and release and bringing things in and then taking them out and kind of keeping you on your toes. Dance music can get very repetitive very, very quickly. So kind of chopping and changing and pulling things in, bringing things out is fundamental to this style of music. So the drums you will hear are a little bit more simple. It's literally just like an exhaust, a kick, and some claps. It becomes very, very simple. In terms of the bass in this section, we actually remove all kind of low-end elements. What I do have is I have a patch that is one of the main bass patches in the intro, but I've just wrote a whole new part for it. It's filtered out, there's no top end, there's basically no bass to it, but it just fills in a little bit of space here. And kind of just ties it together. In the second half of the verse though, we do have this offbeat, almost like percussive bass that's in a room, which is just a saw wave, and then it's just through into a really, really tiny room in Valhalla Vintage Verb. Feels really percussive, feels a little bit weird. We then start introducing some atmosphere elements towards the second half of that. And then right here we have an M1 piano that continues through. Lots of reverb, lots of delay. It's a classic like 90s house sound. If you haven't got the Korg M1 plugin and you're making dance music, I will be honest, you need it. In the second half of the verse, things do start to change here. So we smooth out the bass, you make it really rich, opposed to a little bit more syncopated like the first half. This is just a very, very deep FM bass. And this is from my Serum pack Bratty. It's entirely inspired by Charlie XCX's Brat. There is so many cool presets in there, and you can get it over on ashtillymusic.com if you really want to. It's a great way of supporting me. It's a great way of supporting the channel. Just letting you know. You don't have to, but it would be cool. And it's currently on sale for like £12, so. We then add this acid layer. Which is really adding that ravey texture. For the second half of the verse, we do have a lot more atmospheric elements. It's just providing this like really creepy textural backing for everything else. And then the M1 piano actually does change here. We play just some different chords. We then have this little guitar layer here, which is from the free version of Shreddage. It's not really supposed to sound like a guitar. If it was supposed to, I'd track like a live guitar, but... And then we move into the pre-chorus where we drop out most of the drums. Everything is kind of filtered out and we bring it up. We kind of like low pass everything. We keep a lot of that remaining atmosphere here, but then we also add in some pads. And then we have some pads here. Now these are all from my pack Nostalgia for Serum, which is all inspired by 80s and 90s synth pop. And then we literally move straight into the chorus here. Those synths remain the same, but we're kind of just building on everything and making it bigger. The main change here is the drums get bigger and the bass gets a lot more intense too. If I just play my synths all grouped together. The bass is the same bass from the pre-chorus, except it's playing 16th notes. But I have added this like really gritty high octave layer. And the drums do get a little bit bigger here. We've got a top loop on the top as well. One of the cool things to note here about the drums though is the fact that there's actually a drum room across the whole thing, and I'm automating how much of that signal I'm actually letting through. So it allows the drums themselves to actually feel like they're in a physical space and make the track feel like it's in a club. Like it feels very, very clubby. If I just play you the drum room, it only affects the kick and the snare. And then if I play it with the rest of the drums, but then if I mute it, you'll hear the difference and it feels much drier and tighter. And typically I wouldn't let this much reverb come through on a drum bus, especially because like with lower frequencies and stuff, it can get very muddy and very rumbly. But this song is the club. Like this is the club. It's like huge, right? So in order to kind of achieve that, putting the kick and the snare in a physical space, or making them sound like they're in a physical space at least, makes this whole track just feel that a little bit richer, that little bit thicker, that little bit more alive. And then after the chorus, we go straight into that heavy bass section again. Anyway, that is how I would go about creating a track in a similar style to Lady Gaga, especially the new stuff she's been doing like Disease and Abracadabra. I'm so excited for the release of Mayhem. I am a little monster through and through. She is such a legend and such an icon and queen of the world. If you want to shop some of the presets that we used in this video, the main two packs that I used were my pack Bratty and Nostalgia, and also the Sweet Tooth pack from my friends over at Make Pop Music. Shout out to Austin and Miranda. Love you both. All right, I'll see you on the next one. Bye.